Hello and welcome to BW Business World's Indian Hospitality Summit and Awards. Thank you so much for joining in.
Thank you.
You have had a great panel on DEI. One thing that stood out was you spoke in so much of detail. You talked about so many of initiatives. I would want you to point out on one of the initiatives that stood out for you.
So what I'm finding interesting in the discussion that took place today is that if any organization puts their heart into an area of focus, so let's talk about diversity. So somebody says, let's focus on gender. Someone says, let's focus on disability. Somebody says, let's focus on getting training right. Whatever is the way they're looking at inclusion. When you decide to focus on something, then making sure that your work plan involves every little detail, making sure that you've made it kind of foolproof, making sure that you run maybe some pilots and experiments. So that's what we do also in our disability work. Every time we bring in a new disability, you cannot repeat what you have done in the old disability because you have to engage with those people differently. Some basic principles will remain the same, especially about being sensitive and so on. But how I must work with someone who's autistic versus how I must work with somebody who's got Down syndrome or someone who's deaf is kind of different from each other. And for organizations to be ready for inclusion, they'll have to sort of walk this talk. They'll have to do it. That let me understand what happens with deaf, let me understand what happens with autism and so on. So running pilots, doing experiments, doing trials is very, very useful. And I found this theme even in my other colleagues from other hotels, whether they spoke about women returning to work after taking a break, whether they spoke about women growing in the organization, whether they spoke about getting their whole L&D piece right. It was evident to me that they also ran some pilots first, they experimented, and then they made it an organization-wide idea. So I liked this. I liked this commonality in our discussions.
Very interesting. Now, one point I want to zoom in on that you said, there are initiatives, we need to plan it out, we need to put it on paper, give it a structure and then implement it later. Now there is a huge way to cover when it comes to implementation. There are many more people involved in that. Maybe the way you were thinking at it, you were looking at that project is way different than others would look. How do you look at skilling those people who will be in general treating with them, in general get in touch with them? How do you look at skilling or grooming those people in a different way?
So if you do inclusion work, whether it's around disability, people from economically, socially marginalized backgrounds, gender, age, cross-culture, whichever subject you take, or maybe there's a company who's doing all of these, LGBTQ. So there will be a multi-party situation. It's not that it will be you as the head of sustainability or as the head of HR or as the head of training who will just run the whole thing. So there's a multi-party situation. Some of it is intra, as in within your organization, and some of it is inter, which means between your organization and another. So what we've seen in our journey is that between sustainability, HR, learning and development, and operations, we run hotels, right? All of us have to be aligned. All of us have to understand the importance of this.
What does it take
together?
To be aligned?
It takes dialogue, it takes leadership from the very top. So our chairman and managing director, he's absolutely focused on this initiative, and he won't just say it once. He says it several times during the working week, and it's part of the culture. As much as he will ask about revenue and expenses and profitability, he will ask about inclusion. So every GM and every ops head knows that it's part of my work, I must do it. What I wanted to say about other organizations is we often have to partner with NGOs. Sometimes we partner with some training company. Sometimes we partner with a government body. So if you have a common goal that let us find employment for people with disability, you can actually bring everyone on the table, you can sensitize them, you can train them, because the goal is the same. We have to be very careful about putting the correct target and the correct goal, then it'll work.
Interesting. Very right on your point. Now, when we talk about inclusion particularly, and we patch it with the theme of this year's Atithi Devo Bhava 2.0, it's a bigger task to achieve. What would be your one piece of advice to suggest to me? Any tier of people in hotel, any group, irrespective of age, gender, whatever restrictive boundaries, what would be your one piece of advice in terms of inclusion?
It's literally one line: leave no one behind. It's very simple. And this has been talked about in the disability world many times, but I think this cuts across disability. So if I want to look at the hospitality, travel and tourism sector, and I want to tell them that, listen, be an inclusive brand, be an inclusive organization, all I have to say is leave no one behind. So whether you're looking at your employees, your customers and your guests, your partners and suppliers, or partners and hotel owners, or whether you're looking at within the hospitality and travel and tourism industry, we must all work as collaborators. It's all about collaboration. Competition theek hai apni jagah, but it is all about collaboration.
How lovely. Just the final bit of it. How ready is India for this?
Totally. Completely. And where we are today in a post-COVID world, with the kind of recovery we've seen in hospitality and in tourism and travel, it is upon us to make ourselves grow as an industry and to grow with this kind of idea of inclusion and togetherness.
How lovely. Thank you so much for giving us time. Thank you so much for speaking with us. Lovely.
Okay.
Lovely. Thank you.